Their legacy is going right down the drain, and Dirk Nowitzki's in particular, he's going to have to endure so much criticism.
So I left the city and my team down, and all I wanted to do was go somewhere where nobody knew me.
The emotions of Dirk Nowitzki, what he's always dreamed of, hoping to have another chance.
A legacy of greatness. 25 years on from his NBA debut, Dirk stands amongst the immortals of the game. But what is often forgotten, the now loved European was subject to considerable scrutiny, a soft playoff choker in his prime years. Was it fair? Maybe, but it unfortunately represented a large part of his perception. But a singular playoff run in 2011 transformed the legacy of playoff dropping to one that defined resilience, leadership, and clutch performance. He silenced every critic, overcame immense pressure to finally etch his name in NBA history with a singular championship ring. Entering foreign territory as a scrawny 7-foot European, Dirk was immediately under the public eye, but his actual legacy of unreliability began in 2003. Come year 5, Dirk was an MVP candidate, proven to be the star for Dallas. And amidst a 60-win season, expectations were that Dallas could rival the elite Lakers and Spurs squads. And after 2 grueling Game 7 series against Portland and Sacramento, Dirk scoring 30 in both Game 7s, they were positioned to trump the Spurs. And tied at 1-1 in the series, Dirk went down with a knee injury midway through the 4th quarter in Game 3. A fatal blow for one of the title favourites. But by Game 6, Dirk was cleared to play by medical staff, owner Mark Cuban thus insisting he played, whilst coach Don Nelson refused.
Cubes wanted me to play the way I worked out pregame, and Nelly was like, listen, he's 23.
Long career ahead of him.
Long career.
Stuck in the middle of front office conflict, Dirk decided to not risk further injury by playing. The soft, scrawny European fed into media narratives having opted out at Game 6. He should have played, as a decoy, as an inspiration. Instead, he had bowed out before tip-off, the 60-win Mavericks exiting in the conference finals as one of the favourites. And again the narrative would come in 2005. Having lashed out at Jason Terry in the closing moments of the elimination Game 6 against the Suns, the two teams entered overtime, in which Dirk appeared to take out his anger on the Suns, but instead repeatedly hurried his shots in a futile display of doing too much. One last chance to redeem the performance in the closing seconds.
I think you go for 3 here.
Quick 3, Nowitzki, no way, rebound Nash.
He's had a tough time here in the 4th quarter.
A rushed prayer that went unanswered, representative of his game thus far. 0 for 5 in overtime and 9 for 25 in the elimination game. So whilst his best friend Steve Nash took his career and team to another level in the playoffs, Dirk faded. However, the Mavs would forego this setback in the 2005-06 season. They had their second 60-win season in 4 years and were poised for a deep run. Entering the second round, they matched up against a stronger Spurs team with a prime Tim Duncan. And after losing Game 1, Dirk won the Mavs the next 3 games off his own back, but eventually landed in a Game 7, Duncan v Nowitzki. Seasons were on the line, legacies were on the line. Down 1, 25 seconds left, the ball was in the Europeans' hands.
21 points for Ginobili, 19 of the second half. Nowitzki goes right at Bowen. And the foul! Dirk Nowitzki rising when it matters most.
In a battle of the league's best power forwards, Dirk came out on top with 37 points and 15 boards. They advanced to their second West Finals in 4 years, this time with a completely different roster, but a more confident one at best. He then had his chance to get revenge on Nash and the Suns in the West Finals. Up 2-1, Dallas were in the driver's seat, until Dirk had his worst game of the season with merely 11 points. Yet he refused to let past demons haunt him in the Mavs.
You know what? You were entitled to have a bad game. Tonight you responded in a big way.
With a 50-point outburst in Game 5 to kill any Suns momentum. A killer moment for the German. They'd finished the Suns off in Game 6, advancing to the NBA Finals. Now, more than ever, was their time to win a title. A playoff run in which Dirk proved to be the playoff performer he promised he could be, beginning to burn off his rep as a soft shot chucker.
He has been an unselfish star, and again, his growth as a complete player is the reason this team is here.
Now on the biggest stage of them all, in the NBA Finals, where you are most fiercely judged, Dirk would continue his run of play in games 1 and 2 to take a 2-0 series lead against the Heat, who were unable to get their stars going. The 27-year-old was outshining the 24-year-old Wade, both attempting to assert themselves as greats of the game on the biggest stage. Up 2-0, the press was now preparing for the parade route in South Beach, seeing as the next 3 games were set to take place in Miami.
The Dallas Morning News, the newspaper here, had the parade route already in the paper.
So Dallas fans serenaded the home team in Dallas in what could be their final opportunity to do so. And with 6 minutes 30 left in the fourth quarter of Game 3, championship glory really was on the horizon. Yet the desperate Dwayne Wade fueled a comeback, with 11 of the Heat's next 15 points to tie the game at 95 apiece. A stretch in which Dirk had 2 free throws, and that's about it. He had favoured his teammates, playing off the ball for majority of the final 6 minutes, until the crucial final play of the game. Down 2 with 9 seconds left.
Looks to Nowitzki. Nowitzki on the drive. Inside. No, but a foul. 90% during the regular season, and he calmly sinks that one. This is the free throw. Wade on a foul with 1.4 remaining.
Dirk had 30 points, but only 3 in the final 6 minutes of the fourth, and as one of the best free throw shooters in the league, he missed the game-tying one. With a hand already on the championship trophy, Dirk caved. He followed it up with only 2 made baskets for 16 points in Game 4, as they reduced Dirk to a soft 7-foot jump shooter, not the aggressive 7-footer we'd become accustomed to in this playoffs. So Coach Avery Johnson snapped at Dirk and the Mavs, switching hotels as he cited family as a distraction for the Mavs. So for Game 5, the MVP Dirk showed up down the stretch. A clutch game-tying fadeaway in the fourth to go with a go-ahead bucket in the dying seconds of overtime. However, an early timeout by the Mavs would prevent them from advancing the ball, and Dirk couldn't get a last shot to win the game. Less than a week ago, the championship parade had been mapped out, and 3 games later, they were on the brink of elimination and looking for their star player to show up.
Their MVP has been Dirk Nowitzki, candidate during the regular season, certainly a playoff MVP candidate during the first 3 rounds of the playoffs. Now in the finals, he's been very solid, but they need to get him back to that MVP level if they want to win a title.
So come Game 6, series on the line, through the first 3 quarters, Dirk reminded the Heat of the MVP caliber player he was, with 27 points. But come the fourth quarter needed most, Dirk and the team collapsed. He got off merely 4 shots, missing all 4 of them, including a costly turnover down by 3, with essentially the entire series on the line. The Mavs choked. Their star player choked. For right and wrong, you were judged when you're on the biggest stage, that being the NBA Finals. And in 2006, Dirk wasn't up to the task. Wade fed the media narrative stating he's the reason they lost the championship, because he wasn't the leader that he's supposed to be in the closing moments. But as a whole, the Mavs were a young team.
I was thinking, okay, I'm in my prime. I'm ready for this. We're going to be back. We have a good team. We're bringing the same team back again next year.
As Dirk said, this Mavs team was on the upswing. 67 wins in the following year as title favourites. But they met an unfavourable Warriors team as the 8th seed who swept them in the regular season series. These Warriors were gritty, fast-paced, led by Baron Davis. But really, no one gave them much of a chance against the Mavs, who boasted a league-best 67 wins with the likely MVP on their team. So the Warriors, with nothing to lose and the spiteful Don Nelson, the ex-Mavericks coach on the sidelines, shocked the Mavs in Game 1. The Mavs offense started and finished with the MVP Nowitzki, who went MIA, conjuring merely 14 points on 4 of 16 shooting. Just like that, any hope of an upset began to rise. The 2 teams would split the next 4 games, Nowitzki finding some of his form back, scoring 20 points in all of the 4 games. But in spite of this, Nowitzki's attitude was telling. He didn't sound anything like a dominant player determined to prevent one of the most embarrassing upsets in NBA history. Instead, claiming he was being taken out of games and must look to help without scoring, giving enough reason for his own coach to out him in the media.
Tired of hearing about, how they've taken him out of his game and any lack of confidence. You're just not supposed to have that.
right.
So it left the MVP with the tall task of winning in the hostile Oracle Arena that was literally shaking. The We Believe Warrior crowd fully believing their team could advance to the next round. But it gave Dirk the ultimate opportunity to prove his heart down 3-2, with everyone watching and everything on the line.
There's a great deal of pressure on Dirk, who for the most part has not taken charge.
Dirk's first shot of the game would clank off rim, setting a poor tone for his first half, missing his first 8 shots of the game, before sneaking one in just before the half.
Nowitzki finally knocks one down. He missed his first 8 shots.
Jerry Stackhouse was just huge.
Well, first we got to call out, man, Dirk Nowitzki. I don't know what the hell he's doing, man.
The Warriors were throwing bodies at the European. You'd expect the 7-foot Dirk to feast on the smaller Warriors team, but they did everything to annoy him, from doubling him and fronting him. So retooled and refocused for the second half, well, things didn't get much better. The man could barely get possession of the ball. It wasn't until the fourth quarter that Dirk would make his second shot, and by that time the game was simply over.
This will be just a horrendous off-season for Dirk Nowitzki and the Mavericks as Dirk hits only his second field goal.
The unassuming and likeable Dirk Nowitzki faced a slew of criticism in the offseason, having dramatically fallen short in back-to-back years. Once in the NBA Finals on the biggest stage, the next in the first round, as the first 1 seed to fall to an 8 seed in the 7-game first round era. Michael, Larry and Magic never would have backed down, no matter how many double teams were thrown their way. So Dirk's MVP ceremony came with a hollow meaning.
Still a little sad about how things happened in the postseason.
Yeah, he may have won it, but it really felt like all anyone could talk about was, yeah, but he doesn't have a ring. This was Dirk at its lowest. He left everyone around him to explore the Australian outback, staying in hostels, cars, drifting out to sea. Dirk was lost and was starting to sink.
I think the low point of my career. I didn't want to leave my house.
Coming into the 2007-08 season, Dirk was even included on the all-decline team at 29 years old. The only thing that could rewrite his story was a ring, or an Allen Iverson-esque playoff run, and unfortunately, it looked grim for the following years. Dirk continued his run of elite play in the regular season, and the team continued to poll 50-plus wins. Yet, they exited in the first round in 2 of the next 3 years. Having set precedent of a playoff dropper, many began to assume Dirk's legacy was one of failing to turn up when it mattered, irrespective of how he played for 95% of the year. It was the killer instinct that he lacked. Michael Wilbon, who was of the opinion that Nowitzki had the constitution of a field mouse, as the German was soft for also sitting out of national team duty in the European Championships on Mark Cuban's orders. This is the problem with the Dallas Mavericks. If your best player is so weak that he lets the owner tell him what to do, you have no great player. Or was it simply an American mockery of the European big who didn't have the athletic, slashing playstyle they're accustomed to? It's not like Dirk was playing bad. He had little support. Batman didn't have his Robin as the only all-star on the roster. But without the resume of playoff excellence and as the MVP of the team, scrutiny would always beam down on him. It became a running joke that Dallas were a good team, but weren't good enough to make any major dent in the playoffs.
Be careful, which S word are we using? Salt.
Time was ticking for Nowitzki. He was 32 with only a handful of years at his peak, you'd assume.
The end of his career is closer than the beginning right now. Dirk's still at the peak of his game, but running out of opportunities to win a championship.
So entering the 2010-11 season, much was the same. They're the 7th best odds to win it all behind 2 main contenders, the newly formed Big Three in Miami and the reigning champs in Los Angeles. But to overcome these contenders, the Mavs had a similar roster. Jason Terry, Caron Butler providing much of the scoring punch outside of Dirk, and Shawn Marion the point of attack defender, none of whom were much of a Robin to Dirk's Batman. Notably, I guess they acquired Tyson Chandler, a defensive player of the year talent that did everything Dirk couldn't do on both ends of the floor. These were players assembled to be a team, and not a group of individual players. A team that started the season incredibly, 25-8 until what was thought to be a season-ending fatality for the Mavericks, as second leading scorer Caron Butler ruptured a tendon in his right knee.
Here we go again. We're thinking our window's closing, you know.
But knowing the Mavs would be back in the postseason, Butler attacked his rehab, Dirk revealing his motivation for the team to keep pushing. But media and fan optimism heading into the playoffs was low. The Mavs finished the regular season 12-8, not a hallmark for a team with championship aspirations. Dirk looking like a guy desperate for some help on a team that can't give it to him, as the Mavs were 16-1 favourites to win it all behind 6 other teams. But they locked horns with the Blazers in round 1, led by Brandon Roy, the team no one wanted to face out west, many picking them to even upset the Mavericks. But Dirk asserted himself on the series with 28 and 33 points in back-to-back wins to lead 2-0 in a series for the first time since the 2006 NBA Finals. But those demons from the finals 5 years ago haunted over the Mavericks, who lost the next 2 games on the road. Wasn't it just eerily similar to that finals? Dirk quiet in the fourth of Game 4, having choked an 18-point lead in the fourth quarter single-handedly to Brandon Roy, marking the Mavericks' 18th loss in their last 20 playoff road games. The kind of loss that should have crushed them, but instead gave them resolve, as they could put it behind them to convincingly take the next 2 games.
If you're going to win a championship, you not only got to win on the road, you got to exercise some demons, and they got rid of one tonight.
The Blazers were one thing, a lower seed with an injured star in Brandon Roy. The LA Lakers were a different beast. Stars everywhere, the Lakers boasting a trio of Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, and Lamar Odom. Their resume of back-to-back championship rings speak for itself. For the Mavs as the 3 seed, a second round berth was somewhat expected, but this team was written off for anything more than that, meaning the Lakers were more than heavy favourites to take care of business against the Mavericks. Predictions looked to be valid, as the Lakers took a 16-point lead early in the third quarter of Game 1. But fueled by Dirk and Corey Brewer, the Mavericks rallied. In the fourth quarter, 2 of the greats went back and forth. Tough bucket after tough bucket.
Trailing by as many as 16, the shot clock at 6. Bryant to the fade, yes! On Odom. Nowitzki, yes! Wow!
Dirk would go on to hit both free throws for the win, highlighting his newfound mental toughness dating back to his missed free throw in the 2006 finals. Shock, steal, and stun. The words to describe the Mavericks' rally in their Game 1 win of the Lakers. A team of perennial underachievers not exactly known for their playoff tenacity rode the Laker wave early to crash down on them in the fourth, flipping the entire perception of the series on its head. Fans and media waited for LA to take their shot back at the Mavericks, but it never came. Come Game 4, the Mavs sent a statement to the league. Jason Terry and Peja Stojakovic combined for 15 of 16 on threes to demolish the Lakers by 36 points, sending Phil Jackson into retirement. Dirk meanwhile was playing the best ball of his career at the perfect moments. 25 points and 9 boards on 57% field goal percentage and 73% from 3 in the series, unlocking his clutch gene in games 1 and 3 when needed most. He outplayed the back-to-back reigning Finals MVP Kobe Bryant.
Dirk Nowitzki, a Hall of Famer who might be playing his best ever basketball.
One step closer to a long-awaited journey for a ring.
The Mavericks are a similar type franchise. All the success, but not the ring at the end.
No more were the Mavericks the underdogs, now the team to beat. It wasn't just a regular series win over the Lakers, they demolished them. Their task in the West Finals was a different one. On the other end of the spectrum, a young OKC quartet led by Kevin Durant, Westbrook and James Harden. The physical, more agile Ibaka, one to typically give Dirk problems as well.
Because there was a time when guys beating up Dirk Nowitzki, being physical, would have affected him.
Yet this Dirk was different to the one who couldn't get by Udonis Haslem in 2006. He wasn't quicker or more agile, but more intelligent and skillful. Nowitzki doesn't charge into battle. He fades away, and he wins because of it, not despite of it. The Thunder threw everything at him in Game 1, but nothing could contain the Nowitzki outburst.
And Nowitzki taking away their will sometimes. Nowitzki, it's good! 46 points!
If I'm Serge Ibaka, I'm naming my first son Dirk.
48 points, 12 of 15 from the field, 24 for 24 from the free throw line, and it's a 7-footer.
48 points on 15 shots is ludicrous, but unlike the Lakers, the OKC team wasn't a cakewalk, splitting the Dallas homestand to make it 1-1 in the series. The Mavericks consolidated amongst the feisty Oklahoma crowd, but as they elevated their game, so did KD, as OKC seemed to have penciled in a 2-2 series score. I mean, they were up 10 with 2 minutes left, having led for the entire game. Well, that was until Dirk took over.
Nowitzki right back with a three. Nowitzki on the drive, nice fake. Puts it up, puts it in. Oh, what a tough shot. Spinning on Collison, turning. Falling away. Oh, he puts it in. Dirk Nowitzki knocks it down. It's a 3-point game.
In the span of 1 minute, Dirk scored 7 Maverick points in a row to cut it to 3 points. Slowly but surely, he shredded his rep as a choker in the fourth quarter, having put the Mavs on his back every fourth quarter of the series. And with an opportunity to salvage the 3-1 lead, Dirk hits both his free throws.
We get to players like Nowitzki or Kobe Bryant or Tim Duncan. We almost start to take for granted their excellence night in and night out.
Having blown the lead already, OKC's morale had tanked, scoring merely 4 points in the OT period as the Mavs took a 3-1 lead to put the series away at home. And that's what they did off the back of Dirk's 26 points. Dirk was having that Allen Iverson playoff run, neutralizing his critics, but what could make it sweeter was a revenge against Miami 5 years after they collapsed in the finals. Mavs fans were still haunted by the thought of meeting Dwayne Wade with the championship on the line again. The man who singled out Dirk's postseason failures is not the leader that he was supposed to be in the closing moments in 2006. Yet with the plethora of activity in this year's postseason, Dirk, up to this stage, had proven to be a different man. No longer one to cave under pressure, he led his team with an unwavering focus. He had his chance to rewrite the storybooks of all his past disappointment with one series. A singular series to transcend a legacy of an already Hall of Fame player for the better or worse.
Dirk just might not pass this way again. He's at the end of his 13th season. He just got a 1,000,000,000 opportunity to right the wrong of 06. Are you kidding me? You think he's going to be back in the finals next year or the next? Because he's not.
In the same boat was LeBron James. The pressure cooker created by joining the Heat in the offseason was bearing down on him, who, like Dirk, is trying to shed the label of being a bad clutch performer. It was no more poetic than the clash of the organically produced Mavericks roster against the villainous demeanor of a fabricated Miami Big Three. Not just one star, but 3 of them. At any time they could triple the Mavericks' star power and run away with the game. They were the heavy favourites for a reason. No matter how they dismantled of their opponents, this Mavericks team wasn't to be respected. But the media was kind of right in Game 1. The Heat holding Dirk to 7 of 18 shooting, having gone MIA for parts of the fourth. Dirk had to be better down the stretch. If not, nothing will be different from 2006 to now. Harsh for a player who had just torn a tendon in his left middle finger and had 27 points. But if they had any chance of winning, Dirk had to not just rival LeBron and Wade, but outperform them. So coming into Game 2, the pressure began to amount on the German, who had 15 points and 4 turnovers going into the fourth quarter. He hadn't been better in the first 3 quarters like needed, as narratives from 2006 began to linger that on the biggest stage, Dirk couldn't get it done for no apparent reason. And this Heat team wasn't like OKC, who they could dismantle easily for runs in the fourth quarter.
Now remember their great comeback against Oklahoma City. Unfortunately playing against a better team.
So leading by 15 points with 7 minutes left, this wasn't a competition so much as it was a coronation for King James himself in the Heat.
And the Heat have blown this game open.
But the Mavs mounted a furious comeback, the accruing veterans on the roster fulfilling their own redemptive arc, whom cut it to 4 points with 3 minutes left. And then number 41 called his own number.
Nowitzki puts it up, puts it in, 2-point game, back to Nowitzki, lefty layup, banks it in, and the game is tied. Terry to Nowitzki, puts up the 3, puts it in, Dallas goes up by 3, a 20-2 run. 7 to shoot, Nowitzki Drives with it underneath lefty. Layup banks it in with 3.6 remaining. James back to Wade. Wade puts it up for the win. Off the mark, and Dallas has tied the finals. Dirk Nowitzki, the last 9 points for the Mavericks, and this building has gone quiet.
The leader who couldn't lead his team in the fourth quarter now punished the figure that echoed those words. Yet that figure would still have his stay on the series. It was Wade, not LeBron, who dominated in Game 3 on the road. And coming into the fourth, just like Game 2, the Mavs found themselves down by 7 with 5 minutes left. As Dirk asserted himself in this game, he scored the last 12 Mavs points to mount the comeback. But as Dirk made one shot, so did the Miami Big Three. Unlike LeBron, who went missing in the fourth quarter and could rely on teammates, Dirk had to do it all himself, whereby having mounted the comeback, he couldn't complete it, turning it over and then missing the game winner to tie it up. A rare miscue for the clutch Nowitzki. Just as it seemed the momentum had swung in the Mavericks' direction, it quickly wavered. Now Game 4 was essentially the elimination game, facing the daunting proposition of a 3-1 series deficit. This was it. However, right before tip-off, Dirk was diagnosed with the flu, an 101-degree fever for the European amidst the biggest game of his NBA career. Dallas was still running most of its offensive possessions through him, but his exhaustion was obvious throughout the game, and he spent most of his time on the bench with his head covered with a towel, conjuring merely 11 points from 13 shot attempts in 3 quarters of play. But with his team once again down 9 points with 10 minutes to play like we'd seen all playoffs, Nowitzki summoned whatever energy he had left and scored 10 points, more than the Heat's James had in the entire game, to put Dallas back in front. Having fumbled Game 3 with the game on the line, Dirk's moment arrived to even up the series.
Haslam right up on him. He's going too early. Drives underneath. Layup, he puts it in! Nowitzki makes it a 3-point game. Sometimes even when you're wrong, you're right.
And essentially an elimination game, Dirk stole Miami's heart in Game 4. In 2003, Dirk was labelled as soft and weak for not playing through an injury, a label that stuck with him for years. Now, 8 years later, he battled through a finger injury and illness, single-handedly carrying Dallas with him. This was a different man, one that wasn't going to let his opportunity crumble. But Wade and LeBron weren't taking it well. They mocked Dirk for overreacting to the flu before Game 5.
Oh, did y'all hear me call? I think I'm safe.
Now, they're making fun of the other team's superstar who has been killing them game after game.
And again, when the Mavericks were up against the wall, the two left from their 2006 finals collapse took matters into their own hands in Game 5. Two that had grinded in the league but hadn't made it to the mountaintop, now slowly etched their name into the mountain.
Chandler, Nowitzki, quick move, and the finish! Again, excellent ball denial. Terry, a long three. Bang!
As LeBron scored 2 points or less in the fourth for the third game running, the aging, underappreciated Jason Terry stashed a dagger in the Kings' heart, concluding Game 5. The nerve of Miami to mock Dirk,
Well, I just thought it was a little childish, a little ignorant.
and then crumble in the face of adversity, with another lead down the stretch. Now the humble European was one game away from trumping the cocky Miami Big Three. A win not just for the Mavericks, but the entire world besides Miami. But the job wasn't done going back to Miami. The pain Dirk now felt was irrelevant with sights of ring number 1. He was on a superhuman run, one game to cap it all off. The two teams went back and forth through the first half, but having chased for nearly all the second halves of the series, the Mavs didn't let this opportunity waver, taking firm control of the game. Every time the Heat went on a run, Dirk and the Mavs counterpunched. And like he'd done all year, championship on the line, he stunned the Miami crowd.
Maverick fans starting to celebrate. Nowitzki, left hand, lays it in.
Mama, there goes that man, Dirk Nowitzki, sealing the deal.
Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. The first title in franchise history. The emotions of Dirk Nowitzki. What he's always dreamed of.
Dirk and Jed have had to live for 5 years with what happened in 2006, and as of tonight, those demons are officially destroyed.
Dirk deserved this moment. He'd been with the Mavs at his lowest, and having ran away from the team in 2006 after his collapse to be alone, he now ran off the court to do the same thing, this time in triumph. No matter how his career unraveled from here, Dirk had seized his destiny, leaving behind the shadows of past disappointments. The arc from soft to hard complete, at least in this prefabricated narrative, was now complete. Those 50-win Mavericks teams of the late 2000s seem like a distant memory, as the 2011 champion and Finals MVP are now synonymous with Dirk Nowitzki, and the lowest points in his career serve as building blocks, not defining moments of his career. Once perceived as a soft player that wilted under playoff pressure, Dirk's playoff run was a true testament to his greatness. He was doubted for the entire journey, but what could they say now?